What's going on, y'all? Welcome to another episode of the Speak Up Sports Podcast with Cass, Chris, and Shad. What's going on, fellas?
What's
good with y'all boys?
What's good?
Been a crazy week this week. Obviously, we in the NFL, we got back into the international series. Had some duds of standalone games in terms of the final game that we saw, as well as the first game that we saw this past week. Obviously, has been a crazy week as well. Got a coach firing. But before we get into the NFL, since we are in the true heart of the NFL season, we'll obviously focus a lot of our time there today. But we have to start off with Nico Harrison officially being fired from the Dallas Mavericks. Obviously, much has been talked about him over the past few months following the Luka Doncic trade, but it's probably something a lot of people could have expected and could have seen coming, especially how the Mavericks started. But how do you guys feel about the decision and the news that we heard today?
I mean, like you said, Shad, it was probably stemming back from last year. Getting rid of basically the franchise at the time, and obviously being able to recruit that a little bit by getting the first overall pick. But it was writings on the wall. I guess in my opinion, why now? Why not already have done that? If that is truly how you felt, I feel like what we say a month into the game, a month into the season didn't change anything. So I don't understand why now. That would be my question: is why now? Like the amount of games you play, no matter the wins or losses, doesn't give you enough information for you to be like, all right, you just gotta go. In my opinion, so it got to be some stuff behind the scenes, obviously. But I mean, everybody was asking for his job, so I mean, it took them long enough. So I'm not really too shocked.
Yeah, that's where I'm at with it. Not even a month to the season, man. We're talking like literally just 3 weeks. Like just hit it. Yeah. No, I think this all stems from the fans, and it shows how big of an impact the fans have on these teams. They had to do something, and when it started from the protest that happened right after the trade, when they were all outside, with the signs and all that saying "Fire Nico," everybody's displeased with it. And then it tied into this offseason, tied into the beginning of this season. The worst thing you could do is start off as poorly as they have. And that's just going to, and for Luka to be playing as good as he is. And that's just going to lead to everybody talking again. So you had to do something at this point. The owner's trying to save face with the fans, and, he wants to rebuild. Talk about retooling the franchise and all that. And you have Cooper Flag. You had your first round pick. You got Kyrie coming back. So there's avenues to doing that, but they had to do something, and I'm not surprised at all, at all.
Yeah, and I'm not necessarily surprised, but I do. We talked about it a little bit, and well, first of all, to your point, Chris, like I'm blanking on the point, honestly. But back to what I was saying. So I'm not necessarily surprised, but for them to start off the way that they did, and this is to Chris's point, knowing coming into the season that they were hurt, like knowing that your big pieces you expected to kind of take off more so in the middle of the season or towards the end of the season than you did really the beginning of the season, it makes the timing of it, a little curious. But as Cass mentioned, with the retooling of the franchise, we've now seen reports about Mark Cuban is now getting a little bit more involved here, and which was obviously something that when Luka initially got traded, Mark Cuban kind of came out and was like, "Hey, nah, I haven't been a part of these decisions recently. It wasn't me. I wouldn't have done that. Blah blah blah." And initially, when he sold the franchise, that's kind of like what we all thought was going to happen. He was going to sell the franchise, and that's what we were told. He was selling the franchise, but the basketball decisions were basically going to still be Mark Cuban. And there was obviously some shift there or some change. And truly, I feel like, I sit here and try to defend Nico. Well, I am going to defend Nico to an extent, but I am not about to sit here and try to necessarily say that I don't agree with that, him trading Luka Doncic. Full stop. I don't agree with it at all. I don't think that it was a wise decision. With that being said, there's been a lot of people that have been coming at Nico for making a bold decision, which was a super bold decision and probably should have been vetted out a little bit more. But ultimately, we can put two and two together. It wasn't necessarily Nico's decision, and ownership is probably trying to use him as a scapegoat here. But given you're trading Luka Doncic, I do feel that he got a pretty damn good return. All things considered, obviously AD has been hurt, so that's that kind of complicates it a little bit. But I am not sure. We talked about it when it happened last year. I don't know who else is or I guess earlier this year. I don't know who else that you could acquire that would have been better than AD. Maybe you get a player that's younger than AD, more healthy, but he's not as good. But ultimately, like, Nico can feel justified. The Lakers told you they agreed with Nico at the end of the season. Luka told you that he agreed with Nico at the end of the season. Luka literally transformed his entire life because the Lakers told you guys he was too lazy and fat on the court and couldn't play defense. It changed his whole life. So to continue to come at Nico for literally being right is a little bit. If you're gonna say that Nico made the decision on his own, he was right. The Lakers admitted it. Luka admitted it, and he made the change. But obviously, reports are, hey, the Mavs were talking to Luka about this for years, and we see all the time that people, especially young people, need like a legitimate, like life-changing change to make a change like Luka did. So if we're going to go off the reports that, hey, they've been asking Luka for years to get his body right, to take his physical health seriously, and he hadn't been doing that. And it took for the Lakers to get bounced, for him to get traded, the Lakers to get bounced in round one, for JJ Redick he threw Luka under the bus. Like, when he talked about we didn't have championship effort, we didn't have championship defense, whatever the case may be, he wasn't talking about LeBron James. He wasn't talking about Austin Reeves, who was never known to be a defender. He wasn't talking about Rui. He was talking about the one guy that they traded for that they thought that, myself said was going to sweep the Thunder, the NBA champions. He was talking about that one guy. And so, I know a lot of people have been coming at Nico, and I do think that, once again, I would not have traded him personally, but I do think there's a bit of nuance that nobody else is talking about, this other side of it, where the Lakers and Luka himself pretty much said, hey, without saying it, hey, Nico was probably right. So, like, I do think that people are shitting on him, acting like he just ruined the franchise. Like, the franchise was in the place that they were because of Nico Harrison. He was the one that made the trade for Kyrie Irving when nobody else wanted to touch him. If memory serves correctly, and I know Chris remembers because he was telling everybody that would listen that they were going to be fucking trash, the Mavericks were out of the playoffs before they traded for Kyrie. Like, they were not a playoff team before they became before they made it to the final. So, like, it's not like the trajectory for that team was just like, just soaring. And last year they weren't good. They weren't going to make the playoffs with Luka. Like, pretty much. They were not going to make the playoffs last year with Luka. So they made the finals, but 2 out of the 3 years you would have missed the playoffs. So, like, I do think that Nico needs some type of a little bit of defense and credit given his way instead of just, everybody shitting on him and him being a pure scapegoat. But say all that to say, I was not surprised. I was not surprised at all. But, where do you think the Mavericks go from here? Like, how obviously there's been speculation about AD possibly being traded or Kyrie. What do you guys think is the best course of action?
In my opinion, even though they are older players, it's almost like you have to wait till they get healthy. Because, I'm not sure what their value is as far as are you being able to, trade him to another team. Possibly somebody might trade for him at this juncture, but Kyrie's coming off of what we will consider a major injury, and so we don't know what he's gonna look like coming back. Same thing with AD. It's not major, but he's off injured. Like, yes, he could give you 40 and 20, and then 2 games later he trips and he's hurt now. And I don't know if now it is some crazy ass franchise, they'll do it. It's some motherfuckers out there that'll do it. The Kings, they might do it. I don't fucking know. I'm kind of in the area of let's try to get these guys healthy. You just had the number 1 overall pick. He has flashes here and there. Let's try to get these guys healthy and see what you got this year. It's early, like I said, but I mean, you can't imagine that you're going anywhere this year. So you might want to use this year to figure out what you really want to do.
I lean that way. And the tough part about that is even when you are fully healthy, you still have a lot of question marks. Klay Thompson. I mean, he's sitting there making close to $17 million a year. That's a big chunk, in today's NBA. That's supposed to be your middle range. And he's not contributing at all. I mean, they just benched him, last week. That was supposed to be an important part of this group for the next couple of years. And what you've got for him in these first 9-10 games has been very disappointing. So you sit here and look at it and it's like, okay, when Kyrie does get back, what exactly happens? Like, what exactly does that look like? And is it worth it at that point? So that's why you start having those kind of trade things pop up, because you're like, okay, we got Klay Thompson. He's not doing anything for us. So at this point, let's build around Cooper for the future. And you probably, I don't know. That's the thing too. I don't know exactly what you can get for AD at this time, and if it's worth it to kind of also justify trading Luka in a way. So it's a lot of questions that you got to answer. But I'm telling you, Klay Thompson and their expectations are at the root of where they are now. And I mean, that's a little disappointing. I'm not to put it all on Klay, but he's been very disappointing for a $17 million shooting guard that you expected a lot from. At least dependable shooting at this point without Kyrie.
And, we keep saying when Kyrie comes back, like, he's also a 30-year-old, past the age of 30 years old, coming off of an ACL injury. That's also an oft-injured player. We have no idea how he's coming back. Kind of similar to what I was saying with the Chiefs when Rashee Rice comes back. Even though Rashee Rice has looked good, like, it was just like, it's a given that he's just going to be the same guy. And Kyrie, it might take some time for him to, kind of ramp up a little bit as well. So, to be honest, I don't know where you go from here because while I do think AD has a lot of value because of, where the league is and the defensive versatility, especially as a big, I don't know where he could go where he's going to also. I don't think that you can just shit on AD at this point. Like, I don't, especially if you're trying to, as a franchise, like you just traded away Luka. Klay, speaking of Klay, we did see some things floating on social media that, he also came there for Luka and Kyrie. And now he's in a position where he's just kind of along for the ride. Like, he left where he was a legend to come to this. And, so there's
you're
also
saying don't send AD to Charlotte for LaMelo.
Yeah, that's what I'm
don't
saying.
Do him like that.
I mean, shit. If you could get LaMelo, look, LaMelo ass ankles, but you might gotta take the shot because of this try and Cooper flag at point guard dumbass shit that Jason Kidd tries to do with every superstar he gets. I don't know if that's the case, but getting a point guard would probably be. And in my mind, I was sitting here thinking Darius Garland just got hurt yesterday. AD, if you are like AD and Evan Mobley, as opposed to want to do the big thing, that could be interesting to them. But I would say suggesting going to get a point guard and starting there. You have a solid 2 guard, at least in my opinion, is somebody that can develop into one in Max Christie. You have bigs already, so building around Cooper, like you said. But ultimately, I mean, you can still see where things going. Obviously, we still have till February before the trade deadline comes around, and so you could kind of see where things go, how things go over the next few weeks. If I don't know, I understand firing Nico is a part of it, but like everybody was complicit in that. And, Jason Kidd signed off on it. Jason Kidd wanted him out too. Like, he's not like, it wasn't a situation where Jason Kidd was like, oh no, I didn't know. Jason Kidd wanted him out and gone too. Chip wanted him gone too. And they're also bringing in supposedly the GM favorite is supposed to be a former Nico Harrison assistant or a confidant. So clearly it's not, they didn't dislike how Nico was doing things. So I it's a little interesting to me what the next move for them moving forward, but I think they play it out over the next couple months. If by Christmas time we're still looking at it like bottom of the barrel of the West Coast, then you can really start to have those conversations on, all right, we need to make these trades. And I think all of them, Kyrie, Clay, D'Angelo Russell, sorry, you just got to be thrown in there too. All of them got to go and establish a real culture. And I honestly think that maybe you should even look at a full reset with Jason Kidd. There's been ideas floated about him maybe moving up to the front office, but him no longer being the head coach, I think may need to be a part of that as well. Not saying because he's a bad coach or anything like that, because I don't think that. But you can't just like if you can't just pick up half the shit. Like the shit still stinks. Like it's still there if Kidd and the ownership is still there. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah.
But outside of that, on the GM front, we're switching over to the NFL side of things. We did see NFL head coach get fired.
I mean,
but I guess it is kind of finally because the writing's been on the wall for him for a few weeks now. But Brian Daboll was officially let go by the New York Giants, and obviously they kept the GM and Joe Shane and have indicated that. It sounds like the ownership will pick the head coach, but at least he will be a part of the process and be there for at least a year or two. How do you guys feel about that?
That's news to me. I thought they said they was gonna let him do it.
It just came out today that the ownership will have the final say.
I just dropped it in the chat right before we hopped.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Unfortunately, like you said, Sha, it was writings on the wall at this point. It was just a lot of, I ain't gonna say nonsense, but just a lot of interesting things that developed throughout this time, this year in general. And it kind of sucks for Jackson Dart because if that is your franchise, if that is the person you want to follow, you want a head coach to actually handpick that person. Coming in, it seemed like that was one of the people that Brian Daboll decided he wanted to draft. Even though obviously it was up to Joe Shane as far as the actual pick, but I'm pretty sure from what I've read of seeing that he's the one who advocated for it, and for you to just drop him in the middle of the season is like, okay, now you about to find a new head coach that actually either wants him, and what if nobody wants him as a quarterback? What if they decide, hey, you just wasted the draft? So that's kind of where I'm at with it. I am totally shocked they kept the GM. I was assuming that it was just to clean the house. So in my opinion, it is what it is. It was going to happen eventually. Whether it happened now at the end of the season, I feel like it was going to happen regardless. But tough situation for anybody who's a Giants fan at this point. That regime in general, just to see, two of your higher paid players to leave and go to seemingly better situations, that points back to coaching. So, unfortunate situation, but hey, it had to be done.
Yeah. We talked about it going into the season. Of course, we thought it'd be more of that package deal. So I guess that's the more surprising part with all of this. It's funny, Chris, because you do have I feel what you're saying about like Jackson Dart. But if you look around the league, outside of those three teams in the AFC, the Bills, or four, I guess if you want to count the Bengals too, but mainly the Bills, the Ravens, the Chiefs. Who else has really picked their quarter? What other head coach has really picked their quarterback in the draft that are contenders right now? You know what I mean? A lot of these guys, your team, the Eagles, the Seahawks, the Rams, they're making do it, or they made trades for what they have now. So it's not like it's not like a death knell in a way. And how everything has transformed since then. I am interested to see like how and where they go with this head coaching search, because it is important to get the most out of Jackson Dart. And what Brian Daboll was, I completely did not agree with what he was doing with Jackson Dart over these last few games. I get that he has talent, he has the athletic tools, the speed, to be able to run, but the guy got hit a lot. And you just kept running him. And it's just like at a certain point, dude, he's only played like 5-6 games, and he's already been checked out for a concussion how many times? And now he actually has one, which he probably had a couple already, if we're being honest about it. So it's honestly wild that it got to this point, and Brian Daboll knew the writing was on the wall, but I think he'll land on his feet somewhere as an OC. So I don't think it's over at all. I don't think we've seen the last of Brian Daboll, but New York is tough, man. I mean, just in general, and I know that he gave up a lot of leads this season, and that kind of led to it as well. What I don't understand is the Joe Shane thing. It's like that roster, like, did Jackson Dart, because we joked all season about Jackson Dart saving Brian Daboll's job. Was it really Joe Shane's job that Jackson Dart saved? And that's what it's looking like so far, because the rest of this roster, like, I understand that you had the defensive line. It looks all right. You still wait for Abdul Carter to really make more of an impact, but we won't get into that too much. But, like, the rest of this roster, the receivers, it's a little ugly. So it is an interesting decision to keep him on and have him a part of it, at least for the next couple of years, like Shad said. So we'll see.
Yeah. Keeping show is very interesting, and it's seeming, getting the news initially, it seemed like it was a little bit of another, like, he might have, like, kind of distanced himself from it. But it sounds like Joe did not necessarily, he was told that as opposed to being a part of the decision to fire Brian. But ultimately, I think the issue ended up becoming more so how they've lost games over the past few weeks, giving up obviously the Denver game was really probably the one that accelerated it. I don't think that because even last year when they decided to keep him, it was more so like there wasn't necessarily like a number tied to it, but we needed to see legitimate progress. And the coaching aspect of it is when you are losing those big leads, especially against teams like Denver, who even though they have the record that they do, we all see what the offense is looking like. Having given up whatever 20 plus points in the fourth quarter when you were up, but I think they gave it up in like the last 5 minutes too. So, like, then losing the way that they did this past week against the Bears, like the consistent giving up leads, I think, is what hurt him more than anything. And I thought the Joe stuff was a little interesting because while he has brought, it's so hard for me to give credit to GMs that you like, how am I supposed to credit you for getting Abdul Carter? He was the number one prospect and it's been the number one prospect all year. You got him because you were asked. Like, how am I supposed to give you credit for getting Malik Neighbors? What was he, the second player taken that was a non-quarterback or something like that in last year's draft? The rest of the draft doesn't necessarily look that great at this point. So I find it very difficult to give that credit. But, offensive line has been a question mark about the Giants for a very long time. And, Andrew Thomas was acquired prior to either of those guys getting there. So outside of him, like, who else have you drafted on the offensive line that's been a stalwart? Like, so to me, and we see how, to Chris's point, Saquon is doing with a better offensive line and a better offensive system, or better pieces on the offense around him. I don't necessarily say better offensive system. We'll have to see with the pieces. But you look at the Colts, Daniel Jones, still with the better pieces around him, we see how he's been operating. So, like, that also probably hurts him, even though it probably shouldn't have hurt him as much. Or if they're gonna say that hurts Brian, it also should have hurt Joe. But I really don't know, where things go from here for the Giants. I don't know how, getting another head coach, if they really believe in that GM. And it sounds like all the former players that have spoken about it as well, also are kind of like, it's the GM, not Brian Daboll. So Saquon basically said it all last offseason as well. Like, I understand not always wanting to listen to the players, even though, you probably should lean more towards listening to the players more often. But when it's like a resounding, unanimous decision, I feel like there should be at least some consideration here. So it's weird, but I mean, bad teams stay bad because of ownership all the time. So I don't want to super defend Brian Daboll because you did not finish higher than third, even though you made the playoffs. You never finished higher than third in the division. So it's just a tough situation.
Yeah.
With that being said, let's go ahead and get into the recap from last week. Obviously, we had a bunch of good games last week, at least during the 1 o'clock window. 4 o'clock window, we saw, or I guess early morning window as well. 4 o'clock window, we saw hella blowouts. But what was you guys' biggest takeaway from last week's game?
Like you said, Shy, hella blowouts in that 4 o'clock window, which you typically don't always see. But I want to shout out the Patriots, man. Being able to turn that franchise around in general after obviously Tom Brady departure, then you got Bill Belichick who ended up eventually leaving, then you went to a Gerard Mayo regime, and then that for a year or whatnot. But to be able to go down to Tampa and make a necessary plays to win that game, that says a lot. And currently they're one of the top seeds in the AFC. So I mean, I have to shout them out. I picked Tampa Bay. I thought it was gonna be too much for Drake May, but they got the running game going a little bit. He made a couple of plays that allowed him to win that game. So I got to shout out Drake May. He's looking like, dare I say, the best out that class. So I'm gonna shout out Drake May and the Patriots. So
I'm going to talk about some duds, starting with the Bills. Give up 30 to the Dolphins, and I like Josh. Of course, the numbers don't look as bad as the actual game. Of course, in the end of the day, he threw for 300, had a couple of touchdowns. I get it. But the flow that they could not get on versus this Dolphins team, who, we saw a couple of weeks ago, they're not terrible, I mean, they are ass, but they're not terrible. And, they can put up points still. They still have Jalen Waddle, who was huge in this game. They still have A-Chain, who was a monster in this game. But it just exposed the Bills to the point where I thought they would be exposed last week when I picked the Chiefs. And they kind of just waited a week to kind of rear his head, but fine, it's whatever. But I still had those questions about the Bills. Like, truly, like, a lot of questions about that Bills defense. And I understand the deal with injuries and all that, but this is a contender, or supposed to be a contender we're talking about here, and you're dropping this game to the Dolphins. And it's just not a good look. And then you look at the Jaguars. Man, what a blown opportunity you had. You had the Colts lost last week. They played a close game this week, but won. But you still had a chance to keep pace with them. And instead of going to 6-3, you give up 26 in the fourth quarter to Davis Mills and the Texans. And you're looking at it like, okay, this is just an unserious team right now. And then you get the news today that Travis Hunter is out for the season for his injury. We don't know where Brian Thomas is with his injury when he's coming back. And hopefully it's not too long. But like, the Jaguar season kind of just flew off the rails really that quickly. And it's just like, it's disappointing in a way, because the way the first 6 weeks went, you're like, okay, Jacksonville can really make some way in this. They can be one of those teams that keep the Chiefs out of the playoffs. We'll see how that ends up. And then you turn around, you look at the Panthers, and you drop one at home to the Saints, coming off a big win against the Green Bay Packers last week. And again, this is another team where you had an opportunity. You had an opportunity to keep pacing the NFC and NFC wildcard race at least, and you just blew it. Bryce Young
would probably be the first in division after this week. Would likely be first in division after this week.
It's wild, So it's like this is the prime opportunity against a 1-8 Saints team, and you blew it. I mean, it's as simple as that. Bryce Young could not catch any rhythm. He doesn't have any kind of what do you say? Connection with any other receiver besides Tet. You got Xavier Leggett out there just running at this point. It's a lot of like, I know Rico Dowdle has came on the last few weeks, but like this passing game has looked so bad this last month. But they've been winning, so a lot of people haven't been talking much about it. But it's really bad, And I mean, they got an opportunity this week to kind of get the ship back right, but they had an opportunity to really step up, and I thought they would, and they didn't. And that's kind of what you see from a lot of NFC South teams too. But those are the three teams that really disappointed me this week. I feel like they had big chances, and they kind of blew it. And we're getting to it's week 11, so there's not many chances left. You can't be fucking around at this point in the season if you really want to make the playoffs and make a name.
Yeah, and well, to clarify about my point about the Panthers, if they would have won, if they win against the Falcons this week, they would likely be looking at a real possibility that they were going to go into the following week number one in the division, because the Bucks play Buffalo, who is too desperate Tampa is probably less desperate now, given how the past couple weeks have gone in division. But Buffalo is definitely desperate. You could see, you could possibly see, hey, Buffalo would probably win at home, being a desperate team coming off a loss. So just a missed opportunity for them. But on top of the passing, I do want to stick on that point. So the passing game has looked a mess, and some of that is probably coaching, but the time is ticking on Bryce, and it's probably already talked at this point. But something kind of like what I said about Michael Penix a couple weeks ago, like, and honestly, for me, more and more, I've kind of started feeling more and more this way this year. Is we see it early. You see it early on if a guy's a guy, you see it early, and they catch consistency early, and you don't typically see it. You don't have a whole, like, I know people always want to talk about, we got to give them time, we got to give them time, we got to give them time, and I do agree to an extent, but when their guys are good, you see it early on. CJ Stroud, he was not that great the first couple weeks. He started the first 2 weeks, he started getting it going in that second game, his rookie season against the Colts, which was a lot of it was garbage time, but you could kind of start seeing it click. And then he went on a run. Baker Mayfield, I know a lot of people like to talk about him as like a reclamation project, blah, blah, blah. Baker Mayfield was the rookie of the year, guys. Baker Mayfield was a rookie of the year, and then took the Browns to the playoffs and won a playoff game, and then played excellent against the Chiefs, almost beating them in the divisional round. Like, Baker was never this reclamation project, or he was never as much of a reclamation project as some people like to make it. But we saw it early on. Jaden Daniels last year, we saw early on. Even Drake May, even with his stats, we saw there were signs. And then this year, he just took it and ran. So, like, Bryce Young, 3 years in, even though I do like you, the time clock is ticking. And at this point, you also have to kind of start asking questions like, not only are we talking about you as a starter, but we could possibly talk about you as just an NFL player in general. Because I don't know how many people are going to be looking for a backup quarterback at that size if you have already proven that you can't be a starter. Another guy that the clock is ticking on, and sticking to Cass's point, Jacksonville. That coach, I mean, we already saw him and Trevor go back and forth earlier this season, and it's not necessarily that big of a deal. But you could see some of the deflation, and we've seen it over the past couple weeks with the way that they have been losing and how. And I'm not going to say that it was all on Trevor. He only dropped back 6 times in the second half, or whenever they got that big lead, it was like 29-10. So obviously it wasn't all on him. But he did also have an opportunity, which you could possibly say, hey, like, you weren't in rhythm. We were running the ball, trying to shoot clock, whatever the case may be. You still had an opportunity to put your team in position. And those last couple of dropbacks and that last pick six was terrible. So Trevor Lawrence, like, to your point earlier, not a lot of these teams have been able to pick their guy. Well, the Jacksonville Jaguars traded multiple first-round picks because they thought they had a guy for Travis Hunter. Now Travis Hunter is out for the season, and you do not look like that guy. They also gave you a contract. So, like, that was, there's another guy. The clock is ticking on. I talked about him enough. I'm not gonna get on his case this week. But these young quarterbacks, like, your clock is ticking, man, and you got to take advantage of it. We see Anthony Richardson right now is sitting on the bench and may not ever get another opportunity. Will Levis is sitting on the bench, hurt, may not ever get another opportunity. Cam Ward, nobody's been talking about you, but once again, when we typically see guys be special, we see it early. And there were a lot of people that thought Cam Ward was going to come into the season and take the Tennessee Titans to the playoffs. So, like, you guys got to start showing it. Even with Tyler Shuck, we saw him. He came out, he had a good game. Really, again, it's the Panthers, but you guys got to start showing it up. And Dylan Gabriel, your shit's over with, my boy. So,
hey, man, that's rookie of the week right there. What are you talking about?
Hey, look. They coach don't think so. So
that's Pepsi rookie of the week, Chris.
But to another point, we haven't necessarily talked too much about him on the show. But to continue on with my point about like we typically see it early, I think we've been seeing it early with Jackson Dart. Like I'm not saying that he's going to be special or anything, but he has come in and made a difference and looked like a solid quarterback. And
he's a player. He's a player.
Like I don't know fully about the passing, like how that's going to consistently grow, but he has shown signs. But his rushing ability is very good, similar to like what we saw with Drake May last year. Like, hey, we don't necessarily have the weapons. We can see that you see the game, but like his rushing ability came in a lot last year, where we're not seeing it as much this year. But for these guys, for these young quarterbacks coming in the league, like you gotta. Like the clock is ticking and the urgency is there. So, Bryce Young, man, like I really like Bryce Young, but like dog, like it's it's tough because you came into a bad situation, but like at the end of the day, you were the best player in college football. Like you were the Heisman Trophy winner. Like you were the bona fide best player in college football. Like you have to show like something. And I know there might not be the greatest weapons, but like there's plenty of other teams out here that don't have the greatest weapons, that don't have any type of weapons for real, that are making noise. So like that was also some of my takeaways from the week in just terms of some of these young guys. And then Buffalo, yeah, but I do want to correct a couple things. I did come at their neck a couple weeks, and I thought last week they kind of proved me wrong, but I feel a little bit more justified this week. Couple things that I do want to walk back a little bit. So Dalton Kincaid is a good player while he plays. He just doesn't stay healthy. And Maxwell Harrison, he might be a guy. He got cooked a little bit by Jalen Waddle, but he might be a good player in this league. Obviously he wasn't playing as much early in the season because he was hurt. But over the past couple of weeks, what does he have? Like 2 interceptions over the past couple of weeks. He's had good coverage against both Jalen Waddle, even though he got cooked a couple times. And Xavier Worthy this past couple of weeks. So maybe he might be a player, but Buffalo's got to figure it out. I mean, Josh Allen sounded as a deflated post game as he's been. It sounds pretty much outside of the Kansas City games that he's lost. Like that was he was pretty. It sounded like he was pretty deflated, at least to me. So Buffalo's definitely got to get right.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Bo Nix, hold on.
Hey man,
what?
AFC number 1 seed right now.
I hear that, man.
They're not the number 1 seed. The Indianapolis Colts are the number 1 seed. Let's just make that clear.
Number 1 seed. AFC East, AFC West. Chiefs ain't there no more. It's bow time.
And you saw the thing about Bo Nix, man. You saw something last season. Now, I didn't necessarily like it. I saw signs that were there were like, okay, a lot of this is schemed. Okay, a lot of it is him using his legs is good, though. I do get that. But Bo, clock's ticking on that too. And because you keep winning is making it actually worse in your situation because these expectations are going higher and higher and higher, especially for a coach like Sean Payton, who is a lot of times he's not with that bullshit. He will cut your ass and move on really quick. And he could clearly see that the whole team around Bo is some of the main reason why they have the record that they have, especially that defense. So Sean Payton is going to come to his offseason and think, I could do this with many other quarterbacks. It's the same thing that we've kind of seen with like Shanahan. I could do this with another quarterback. Why we need to commit to Bo, moving forward, long term, next season, after next season, talk about contract and all that. Like, no, if I could do this, if Bo's playing like this and we're still 8-2, it's not a good look. So I'm interested to see how Bo kind of flips it around if he can. But I mean, I'm not too surprised with that either, how he's playing, because I never thought Bo was, I thought he was as good as he was last season. And when and you can only go down from there, in my opinion. And that's what happened so far. But they're 8-2 though, Chris. So I hear you.
Yeah, and it's a part of it is also being an older quarterback prospect, because the things that obviously, like, young quarterbacks are young quarterbacks and you want to give them time, but when you have the amount of games that he played in college and you have the amount of years where you were in a college football program, even if you weren't necessarily in the best college football program, whether it's passing or whatever, you still were looked to be the starter for like 5-6 years. You still went through 5-6 different off-season programs and training camps, and went through at least 4 seasons as a starter. Like there's a floor and a level that back in the day, like when it was more prominent to see like quarterbacks drafted after being a 4-year starter. Like the reason that it was like that is because there's a baseline of expectation that there's a lot of things that you shouldn't be getting wrong when you've been playing this amount of games. And some of the things like not setting his feet before he throws, like that's probably the biggest thing, like his biggest issue more than anything. Like the man it seems like he never sets his feet. And he's slightly slow in terms of his processing. Like some of that stuff should have been expected. And I think that's why we're seeing, some of the Sean Payton lovers in the media kind of starting to come at Bo Nix because the clock is ticking. And I think the clock could strike midnight at the end of this season, like legitimately, period. So, he's got to show it. There's an expectation level that you're supposed to be here when you're 24, 25, 26 coming into the league. If you are here with the rest of the guys that are 21 and 20 coming into the league, like you are who you are. And that's why so many people said that about Bo Nix. Like he is who he was. That's why people considered him a second nobody considered him a first round pick. The only reason, and I don't think that the Broncos would have taken him in the first round had they had more middle round picks. Like they obviously were lacking in the amount of picks that they had. I don't think that they would have taken him first round because I think the next pick that they had might have been in the 3rd, 4th round that year. So like there's a reason that he was looked upon as that. So, Bo Nix, the clock is ticking. The clock is ticking, brother. And like Cass said, I mean the expectation is only going to get higher and higher as the team does better, and the dam could break this week. We'll see how the game goes, but the dam could break this week, and Sean Payton will throw them shots in the media. So we will know pretty much by the end of Sunday how things are going to go this offseason. But I think this is a great segue to get into the hot seat watch, since we've been talking so much about how many guys could possibly be on the hot seat. So who you guys had on the hot seat last week, and who you guys got this week, and why?
I do this every week. I can't remember what I had on hot seat last week, but this week in particular, so I do have Joe Shane on the hot seat. But we talked about him enough today, in my opinion. Outside, I mean, to be honest, my whole beef with him it's just a simple fact that he should have been fired, man. I don't care what nobody's saying. His ass should have been gone too. But you here now, so at this point now, it's up to you to show us something. Like Shai said, I mean, we can't give you credit for being able to draft a dual card. That just, you don't get no fucking credit for that, man. What about the rest? What about your old line? What about people outside of Malik Neighbors who happen to, get hurt or whatnot? Okay, Scatterboo came on for a little bit, but I mean, is he legitimately like your best option? That whole roster construction for him needs to be fixed ASAP, or he's out of there. I mean, again, like I said, he should have been out of there. But I guess more along the lines of what I'm thinking for the hot seat is more so like coaching egos. That's what's on the hot seat today.
Okay.
I understand, we are in the offensive mind, league now. So obviously a lot of the head coaches are offensive minded, but I do think some of these head coaches need to relinquish that play dude and call, because sometimes it seems like, it hinders them. Like, I don't know if y'all saw the game last night. You had Matt LaFleur, when the defense on the field, he got his back to the damn field on the sideline, right? You can't do that.
Cooking up nothing.
You can't do that.
Cooking up nothing.
I understand this is your offense. You're supposed to have an offensive coordinator for that. You cannot turn your back to the team while they are playing, because you are the fucking head coach. You're the head coach. You're not just the offensive head coach. You are the head coach of the team.
It wasn't just special teams either. It was while they were on defense. Like,
right, while they on defense. Like, what if you see something happen, you need to call a timeout real quick. Like, I mean, you might have said, give your defensive coordinator the option to do that, but most people don't do this. It's up to the head coach to make them play. You can't do that. And then, like, even when we talked about earlier, Liam Cohen, like,
Yeah.
I mean, again, you can't. It's not a good look, man. You
I understand you upset, but
you can't. No, there's not. It's not even just them. It's like even back then, you can. I mean, he might have fixed it now, but back then, even Kyle Shanahan, game issues, just problems within the game. It's like your head is too focused on offense. I understand that's your bread and butter, that's your baby or whatever, but as a head coach, you have to be better. You have to be better for your team. So, like, I understand it's only a few people who could probably do it. Andy Reid's one of them. You could say Sean McVay. I mean, we just seen this week. I don't know how long it's going to last. It lasts good for a game, but you seen this week, Dan Campbell decided, let me take over the play calling sheet. He is the head coach of the team. That affects the team as far as you paying more attention to one side of the ball. Now, I understand, again, offensive rules the world nowadays. You got to have that offensive genius. You might not want a defense head coach, but I think sometimes when you realize when the rubber meets the road, like you have to switch it up, and not everybody can call plays as a head coach. I mean, Nick Sirianni found that out early. Now that's the only downside. You might have a little turnover at the offensive coordinator, but when you know, like, hey, I can't handle this, like, it's okay to admit, like, hey, let me relinquish just do this. These head coaches, man, Mike McDaniel, your ass too. On the clock, man. Y'all gotta realize, like, you have a team to coach, not just one side of the ball.
That's the thing about Andy Reid, because he's so calm. He's not going to sit there and just freak out. I mean, he will, but it looks different for him. He very seldom do you see him like take his eyes off the field, because he's looking at the whole feel of the game, not just the offensive field, and that's why he's so successful right now. I think last week, I don't know if you had, it was Dallas or Kansas City, somebody from those teams. You had somebody on the bye week.
It was somebody on the bye week. Yeah, I try to think who it was. It'll come back to me. But yeah. Man, it's just, I don't know. Y'all seen the memes? They say he'll play a fruit
ninja on that tablet.
But yeah, man, you got your back to the team. Like, your defense on the field. Like, you don't know what's the fuck going on over there. Like, what are you doing?
And that ties into my last week hot seat. I had Jordan Love on the hot seat. And Jordan Love, my boy. Now, I will say this. What they have cooking right now on that offense is troublesome. Whether more of the blame is on Jordan Love, whether it's on the offensive line, whether it's on Matt LaFleur, whatever, it just needs to be figured out if you want to make use of this season and your expectations that you had. Jordan Love is out there missing reads, throwing to the wrong players, just and getting frazzled by the blitz. We've all seen the stats that have come for that game, how he's been, facing pressure and how it's been really bad. But at the same time, there have been answers that Matt LaFleur has cooked up in some of those situations, and he just hasn't read them, or he ends up going the other way. Whatever it is needs to be figured out. And Jordan Love, you were on the hot seat last week, and this was not an inspiring performance, because now your whole fan base want Matt LaFleur out of there, which I think is, well, whatever. Very, very premature, I think. I don't know, but it's just
saying that they haven't necessarily been a great team under Matt LaFleur outside of the Aaron Rodgers years, even though they've been a good team. And there's been reports that Aaron Rodgers used to be changing the plays. So
I heard that too. And then if you look at it, that last season with Aaron, you missed the playoffs. You were the 7th seed, so you really got helped out by this new format. So it's like, I get that, but at the same time, something got to get figured out there. But this week, 100%. True hot seat again, and now we're seeing coaches get fired. We got Brian Daboll fired. Shit's getting serious. And I've had him on the hot seat before, and we talked about him. We didn't talk about him too much. We didn't talk about that Berlin game, which was a good game overall. But Raheem Morris, this is a true hot seat. I think you're already done, personally. But how do you want to get fired? You want to get fired during the season, or you want to get fired at the end of the season? Because now you're coming up on a stretch where you have the Carolina Panthers, you have the New Orleans Saints, and you have the New York Jets. this is an opportunity to get back to 500, to get back to 6-6, save your job for a little bit, get this mojo back right. But you're on a 4-game losing streak, back-to-back 4-game losing streaks in your first 2 seasons coaching. Terrible look. I don't care how it happened. I don't care that Kirk Cousins got injured last season. He was playing through it, all this other shit. And then this season, it's all falling apart so far. Raheem Morris, there is a big possibility that if you lose this game to the Panthers at home on Sunday, you've lost. You've lost the locker room. You've already lost most of the fan base. And if people start filing out of Mercedes-Benz Stadium on Sunday, dude, it's going to be a cold Monday for you. I truly believe that. I know Arthur Blank don't like to fire people in season. I get that. But at the same time, you got to do something. Because you're sitting there looking at it as like, okay, you fought at 3-7, and this is far from expectations that he had on this season. And then you're not even looking at, I mean, you went 8-9 last year or whatever, or 7, whatever it was. You 8-9. It's gonna take a lot of luck to get back there if you lose one of these next 3 games that you should win, especially this next one at home against the Panthers, who beat you 30-0 a few weeks ago. Raheem Morris, you are truly on the hot seat, my boy. And I hate to say this because I did like the hire. I'm not gonna lie, I did like the hire. I was excited about it. You know, he was the CEO coach, right, Chris? You know, but you came in and you ain't CEO of nothing. You picked the wrong coordinators. Both of your first coordinator hires look like misses right now. You brought in, Jeff Ulbrich, and the defense has significantly improved. I will give you that. We're like 5th in the league in sacks, which is crazy. That is absolutely crazy to even say that. But this also shows you that the problems with this team was way more than sacks over these past few years. That's been the headline of it. They can't get any sacks. The Falcons defense can't get any sacks. Well, now they got 29 sacks on the season. They're 5th in the league. And they're 3-6. There's some deep-rooted issues with this team. Shy had Terry Fontenot on the hot seat, last week, going into the rest of the season pretty much. Raheem Morris, my boy, you will most likely be fired if you lose to the Panthers, especially in embarrassing fashion on Sunday at home. We'll see what you do.
We shall see. And everybody, he's not the only one on the hot seat there. Zach Robinson, it might be over for you as well. But that
don't even get me started on Zach.
That also might be your worst nightmare, Cass, because
I get it.
Everybody fell in love with the quarterback because of Zach Robinson. We can't forget that as well. So
I get it.
That might be your worst nightmare, but we gotta see. He has an opportunity, and but they are on a 2-game losing streak against Carolina as well. So, desperate teams, both teams. So I actually think it's going to be a really good game, and it was a really good game in Berlin as well. I think we saw a little bit of desperation from the Falcons side as well in that one, and made for a really good one. My hot seat last week, so I did have somebody on the bye week, as you guys mentioned. I had Dak Prescott. So his kind of carries over into this week. Obviously, like I said last week, you beat the tomato cans all the time. So the Raiders, I'm not going to give you credit for it. So you're on kind of like a 2-3 week hot seat watch. But with that being said, mine is kind of a mix of the two of you guys, because both you guys mentioned coaches, essentially. Coaching ego, and last night's game, a lot of people are talking about another coach's ego in Nick Sirianni. So, Nick Sirianni, I have you on the hot seat. But my hot seat for you is not because everybody's trying to come at your neck, which locally it seems that you have kind of been justified here, and it probably was not you. I also saw a video of you saying, why did they throw that pass? So I am inclined to believe that it was not you that called that play at the end of the game. But Nick Sirianni, I have you on the hot seat for a legacy play. Nick Sirianni currently is 4th all-time in coaching win percentage. Let me say that again. Nick Sirianni right now is 4th all-time in coaching win percentage and number 1 for all active coaches. He is been to the Super Bowl 2 times, obviously won 1 Super Bowl. There's been 27 head coaches that have multiple Super Bowl appearances. 18 of them, and I'm including guys that are active now, so 18 is a little loose. Bill Belichick is one of them for sure going to be in the Hall of Fame, but 18 of them are Hall of Fame. A couple of people that it was Bill Belichick that's active. I think Andy Reid, obviously. I included Pete Carroll and Mike Tomlin. Those two could possibly fall off depending on how you're feeling, but Pete Carroll I think is a little bit of a shoo-in. Two Super Bowl appearances as well as his college. Even though it's not like basketball where it's like your full full career, I do think that people will kind of give him a little bit of bump because of that. 18 of them have all been Hall of Famers, yet we never speak about Nick Sirianni as an elite coach. Why is that? We don't ever hear anybody, I'm going to say this.
They don't like his style, but go ahead.
They probably don't like his style, which is fine. And that's completely fine. I know Philadelphia got that mafia mob money, so they're always rolling in. They're always rolling in free agencies, always making free agents, always making trades. One of the things that I think he has not gotten credit for is not only they're part of the reason that they continuously making all these trades and getting these free agents is because they trust Nick, in my opinion. That number one. Number two, not only are they they're always getting named guys. So you're always getting named guys or guys that are coming like Jair Alexander, Shaq Leonard, that are former All-Pros that are trying to kind of revitalize their career. So that's a lot of ego that you're also dealing with because you're talking about guys that are basically being told, hey, you're no longer good enough. And we never hear, we hear a lot about Eagles drama, but what do we really hear about Eagles drama? Like, we hear about it, but what do we really hear? We don't really hear anything. We really don't hear anything or like what's really going on. It's all speculation. So he's dealing with that. He's dealing with whatever's going on with Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown, or maybe it's just A.J. Brown. There's clearly something going on. He's been dealing with that and managing it. Everybody told you that Jalen Carter was this big head case. He makes a mistake in the first game of the season. How often are we really, really hearing about Jalen Carter in terms of being a head case? Jordan Davis was a guy that for years at Georgia in previous years, hey, he's got weight issues. Nick Sirianni, I'm not going to say that it was all Nick Sirianni, but we always give coaches credit for stuff like this. Jordan Davis, then having one of his best seasons of his career, has lost some weight, came in great shape. It's just stuff like that. Managing the ego of A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, even though I'm not going to say Devontae Smith has a huge ego, but he's a Heisman Trophy winning, arguably the greatest receiver ever in college football history. And he doesn't necessarily get the ball and could possibly be all-pro caliber or be talked about like some of these guys are. Still managing that. Managing Saquon. I mean, there's a lot of big personalities that are on that team that, if we're nailing some of the coaching hirings that he has, admitting fault with some of the coaching hirings that he's had, and then going back to nail other coaching hirings. And then finally, I'm going to make this point. I don't know if you guys will agree, but I feel like if you asked objectively an anonymous poll on Jalen Hurts, I think across the board you would get Jalen Hurts is an average quarterback that has elite moments. Straight objectively. There would not be a bunch of people I think you wouldn't have a bunch of people saying he's top 10, top 5. You'd basically have, in my opinion, you'd basically have everybody saying he is average. How many coaches do we see that have an average quarterback go to 2 Super Bowls, be undefeated, 10-1, 7-2, go through this gauntlet of a schedule that they had thus far, and still managing all of it? And right now, all the shit we've been talking about the Eagles, we're looking up. They're the number 1 seed in the NFC. Like, Nick Sirianni needs his credit.
Personally, you can't be an average quarterback and do that. So that's just me.
But you think Brock Purdy? You think Brock Purdy's an average quarterback? You think Jimmy Garoppolo's an average quarterback, don't you?
I think Jimmy Garoppolo's ass. I'm not even gonna hold you on that.
Okay, then Jimmy Garoppolo went to a Super Bowl, went to multiple NFC championships. I'm just saying.
I think he's ass, but
okay,
what I am saying is I just don't think you can be an average quarterback and do that. That's all I was saying.
The crazy part is,
I hear what you're saying, but
yeah, the crazy part is it's honestly just a mixture of all of that. It's a mixture of like Chris said, his style. I think his age plays a part in that too. Him being pretty young, 44, which is really young for a coach. Well, shit, not nowadays, I guess. They used to be really young, but
get it there.
yeah, I'm saying, but no, I think that plays a part in it though. Why you're not looked at as one of the best, and
But that's what. Go ahead. That's all I was saying about the. It goes like Shai said earlier with the ego, because everybody who wants to be head coach wants to be the play caller. He did become a play caller, but then he was like, I can't do that. And like Shai said, I can't do that and make sure these niggas on defense ain't acting stupid. I can't do that and pay attention to everybody else.
The CEO head coach. Look, there you go, Cass. The
CEO real CEO. Coach. Well, him and Big Dom. I'm pretty sure Big Dom got a lot to do with a lot of that straightening up in there too.
That mafia mob.
That shit serious.
When Pablo Torre come with the RICO case for him.
Oh,
we're gonna see him about a year or two.
We're gonna see down the line. We're gonna see.
But with that being said, the Eagles obviously just got a big win on Monday Night Football. They have another big game against the Detroit Lions. Basically been looked at for the past 2-3 years, really, of a matchup that the world has been looking forward to. And then they have another game at Dallas, which is a division rival. Obviously, it's Dallas. They always it's back and forth. They got the Chicago Bears, which we'll see how they do, in Los Angeles, and then after that, it's Vegas, it's at Washington, which it's at Buffalo, which is a tough one, and then Washington again to end the season. They have a really good opportunity that we're looking at maybe 2 more losses at that, if that. So Nick Sirianni, you're on the hot seat, not because you've been bad, not because you've had some ego, not because of last night, even though you're getting criticized for a mistake that probably was not yours. You're on the hot seat because you have an opportunity to be unquestionable. Like where we're talking about you possibly being a Hall of Fame level quarterback, Hall of Fame level coach. And if you even want to say that about Jalen Hurts, look, like I said earlier this season, I will never hate on anybody for saying Jalen Hurts is top 10 because of how the 2 elite performances that he's had in the Super Bowl and being a Super Bowl MVP. But we all know what we see. So I'm never going to we all know what we see.
One thing about that play last night, I do not agree because they definitely called an actual offensive play. He might have checked to a different play. He definitely called a play which was not the right decision. So I don't agree with that at all. He called a play. There was no reason for that offense to be out there on that damn field. They should have punted the ball.
The thought is that he called a play to try to get him to jump off sides. If that is a possibility,
I get it.
The coach walking on the sideline saying, "Why did you throw that?" tells me
because that tells me why did you throw that deep ball? Like, but the thing is, that's just what they do. That's why I'm like, nah, because every game, you go back to the Viking game this year, how did they end the game? Throw it deep. I can go back to last year, Browns game, how they end. That's how they do to end the game. He called a play. They don't try to.
And that I think.
Go ahead.
I think your point that you're making contradicts your point. Because if they do that, he wouldn't be on the sideline saying why.
No, I'm saying he's saying why did he check to that play? That's what I am saying. I am saying they had a play call.
I think
he checked out of it. I
get what you're saying.
I really don't. In my opinion, that is insane to say. Hey, draw them off sides. If not, we punt. And they saying, no, we're running a play. That's what I am saying. I get it. I just can't see them saying, nah, we're running a play. Fuck what you. Now, I can see them switching the play because they do switch the play. But to say, like, no, we're not running a play, and everybody like, yeah, nah, we're running a play. Fuck what he talking. That is insane. That's all I'm saying.
And
that is insane.
I agree that sounds a little insane, especially considering who Jalen Hurts is and knowing that he's a coach's, former coach's son and all of that. Ultimately, there was a report, or they said that A.J. Brown admitted they did that in the past and said, fuck what Nick Sirianni's talking about. Admitted that they did that in the past.
Yeah, because they did it in the Seahawks game where he had a play call and they changed the play and said, no, we're running this play. Yes, he has done that. What I am saying is his ass called offensive play. He should have said punt the ball. That's all I was saying. But
offensive play is to draw them off sides. That's what
that wasn't. I am telling you. I am sitting here telling you that all the reporters, even fuck Bill Colarudo, I don't even listen to his ass. He ain't no real reporter for the Philadelphia. Anyway, them other people are saying like there's no way in hell he called a let's draw him off sides play to them saying, and getting everybody on offense like, all right, we're running a real play. Like, that just doesn't make sense. But I wasn't in the huddle, so I don't know.
We'll never know.
We might find out. Hey, look, AJ,
It gonna come out. It gonna come out.
It gonna come out. It's gonna come out.
Pablo, where you at?
Hey, Pablo, tap in. Hey, actually, never mind. I'm not even gonna put that jinx on y'all because the Clippers right now, hey, they really might be in the Rico case for real. So I ain't gonna put that juju.
They're rough over there, but hey, Ty Lue about to get up out of there too.
But ultimately, like I said, Nick Sirianni, you're on the hot seat not because you're on the hot seat of possibly being, detached or fired or whatever the case may be, but also one more thing that I need to add: he beat the Bill Belichick allegations because people definitely were saying that he should have got fired. He won a Super Bowl behind that. So, Nick Sirianni on the hot seat because of legacy play. You have an opportunity to put yourself in that upper echelon where you're unquestioned, like a Sean Payton's not questioned, like a Mike Tomlin's not really questioned after however many years, like Andy Reid's not questioned. Like, so Nick Sirianni, you're on the hot seat. Let's see what you do to conclude this season and what you do in the playoffs. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into what last week's picks look like and get into a great week of football or a great week of picks.
Yeah, it was a good week last week for all of us. All of us got 4 out of 6 in different forms. So we all picked Tampa Bay, and we saw how that game went. Of course, I picked Atlanta. Y'all picked Indianapolis, and then Shad ended up picking Green Bay over Philly, and we saw how that game went. On the season, that puts me at 28. Chris, you at 36. Shad 33. Pretty much a wash. So we'll see what this week got for us.
Yep, and this is actually a really, really, really good week in the NFL. A lot of kind of like a delineation week of where a lot of trajectories are going to go. As we mentioned with the Falcons and the Panthers, they're not even on our picks list, but that's one that can kind of teeter. Obviously, the Broncos and the Chiefs, like we've talked about in the past. Tampa Bay and the Buffalo Bills. So we got a lot of good ones. Even took out one of the standalone games. So starting with the first game, the Thursday night, we got the New York Jets somehow coming off of a win. And going against that shit stink. Going against the New England Patriots. Who you guys got this week and why?
I got the Patriots. As simple as that Bills, that Jets offense. It just seems like every week they just find ways to get worse. Every week it just seems like something just get worse and worse and worse. And obviously now Garrett Wilson's out. He wasn't using him that much anyway. But I'm a rock with the Patriots. That defense is just too much. There's nothing that offense can do. So
yeah. Patriots at home. I'll be very shocked. I'll be super shocked if they play around with this and fuck around and lose it. But I got to go with the Patriots, man. They've like we all picked Tampa Bay last week. I thought that would be the game where they kind of slip up and come back down to earth. But it's a solid team. I mean, I can't deny it at all. It's a solid team, and they're well coached. And well coached teams don't lose games like this on Thursday night football. We'll see though, but I got Patriots.
See, I can't necessarily agree with you by saying well-coached teams don't lose because how am I going to say that after just giving this passionate speech about Nick Sirianni and they lost on Thursday night against the Giants? But with that being said, I'm also going.
Giants are also better than the Jets, though. I will say that.
True, but I'm going to go with the Patriots as well. They really did kind of slip up against Tampa Bay because they weren't good, like necessarily like play to play. They lived off explosives. They had the explosive touchdown to Kyle Williams, and then obviously 2 explosive runs by Travion Henderson. One was pretty much bottled up, similar to the Jonathan Taylor play, and he ended up bouncing it and taking a yard. The other one, it was just a wide ass hole. Man looked up and was like, "Oh shit." In terms of, I told you guys before, I hate that stupid ass. How bad did we really lose or whatever the case may be, and it shows like the differences in success rate, and I'm pretty sure the Bucks were like a huge success rate comparatively to the Patriots because I think they only had a success rate of like 30%, which is basically the amount of plays that you are successful that get yarded that don't get stopped.
Mm-hmm.
So for our listeners, but Yeah, I'm going with the Patriots. I'm never gonna. I already told you guys, I'm not picking Justin Fields or Justin Fields adjacent. Like, I'm sorry, I'm just not doing it. Getting back to our, I think this is the final international game in their international series. Washington going against Miami. Obviously, we're not typically used to pretty good games, but we got an overtime game this past week. Who you guys got this week and why?
Another game where both of these teams in general are obviously not going anywhere. But I'm gonna roll with Miami on this one. Washington, I mean, they are very much injured all over the place. Their defense is just bad, man. And I don't know what to say about that defense. It just seems like every time you look up, somebody running free, even obviously they played two good teams back to back, but I mean no resistance at all. So I'm gonna roll with Miami with this one. I think they played a good game last week against Buffalo. I think they keep that trend going, get that running game going. I think they'll win this one.
I'm actually going to go with Washington on this one. And of course, we didn't talk about it much in the beginning, but we did get news that Dan Quinn will take over play calling duties for that defense.
Bad decision.
Kind of demoting Joe Witt Jr., which, brings back flashbacks for me, because when Dan Quinn did that was the beginning of the end. We'll see. But I do think that the defense will play a lot better than they have been playing. I think Dan Quinn is a good coach, just flat out. So at this point, it's about want to. You're going against Tua, who will turn the ball over. And hopefully you can get the defense playing sound. I know it's a lot of speed going against less speedy defense. So
speed versus a lot of
that's a bad matchup. Of course, you're down your corner. Trey Amos got injured in this past game. So you're down another corner. So it's or maybe we'll see how the week goes. But I think Washington pulls it out. It's gonna be tough though. Pause. But I think Washington come out with the dub.
When I was talking about Buffalo and having them on the hot seat, I did mention Miami as a game. Like, hey, you have this game coming up, because I did see how they played against Miami earlier this season, and also I saw.
You saw what I saw. I just saw it too. We got a wee woo. We got a wee woo. You see it, Chris? That's your boy Jair, Chris.
That nigga wasn't playing no. He don't even talk about him. Like, bro, that man wasn't playing no time soon. If he were to play, like, stop it, man. That was a dart throw. Like, what we talking about? Like, hey, man, time out. Folks. I need to put the fans on the hot seat next week. Folks really
folks, talk about your boy.
Your fans,
man,
fans.
Everybody fans. They get enamored with these names. I'm like, bro, you clearly ain't seen that man play all year.
There's a reason. Jair Alexander.
Yeah, I'm about to.
Go ahead, Shai.
Finish what you said.
But no, like seriously, like us fans, and I like how us three in general. But you got people who are like us. We get in depth and actually look at certain stuff. You get enamored with the name Jair, you just think, oh my God, 6th round pick, how he did it. Man, that was a damn dart throw. That was like, hey, our cornerback to his ass right now. They have not been playing good. Maybe if he gets healthy, maybe he could do something. It's always been a maybe. It's just people see that and just automatically think, that's it. That's it right there. He did it again. It's like, man, come on. Y'all pay attention to not just your team. Pay attention to more than. I know you love your team, but it's hard. It's hard. I just love football in general, so I pay attention more than just a team. But
it definitely, and probably more so, we recognize it a little bit more just because we do this podcast, so we pay attention a little bit more. We've always kind of paid attention to all teams prior to this anyway. But you really see it, like, especially I do, like, as I enter other Twitter spheres for certain teams or all teams, really, like, you see it, like some of the complaints that they have comparatively, like, to the complaints that the Colts fans have and stuff like that. But the reason that I paused is because Jair Alexander, news just dropped that Jair Alexander is stepping away from football. It doesn't say retirement specifically, like completely. So it sounds like he's just stepping away to maybe get his body right, figure it out, because he has had a lot of unfortunate, like, freak injuries. So, but ultimately, that made me lose train of thought. Back to what I was saying. I talked about Miami when I was talking about Buffalo in terms of a game that they had coming up, because number one, because Miami was a division opponent, but because I just I believe in Mike McDaniel more than a lot of people. Obviously, I've said it multiple times. I really think Mike McDaniel is a better coach than people really want to give him credit for. Because once again, when you're talking about an average quarterback like Tua, and winning the way that he was winning and putting up the numbers that he was, he should get some credit for it. He also should get criticized for backing Tua and having them pay the amount of money for Tua as well. But it doesn't feel like the locker room he's lost the locker room. We saw the celebration after the game. And I also think that a lot of people just look at Mike McDaniel, how he looks, and are like, nah, that guy. Like that's really what Mike McDaniel criticism ends up being, more so than anything. It's never really about like X and O's, like how he's handling stuff. It's always like, look at this nerd. Like, do you hear this guy?
Listen to how he talks.
He's stuttering, like, and to me, honestly, it's a little bit more endearing, because it's like he is a flawed dude that, obviously he had a little bit of a history with substance abuse, but like he is a flawed dude, and he seems like a genuine guy. I say all that to say, I think Miami is going to rattle off a few wins. Started off with the Falcons win that, probably looks a little bit better than it did maybe at that point in time, just given how the Falcons have played the past two teams that they played. And then they obviously smacked Buffalo. Like, Buffalo's never been smacked like that before, for real. So I do think that they're going to rattle off a couple wins, and I think that they continue it this week, even though it's in Madrid and it's a little bit of a weird game and stuff like that with the international games. I think Miami continues their trajectory. And it also seems like, for them to fire like the longest standing person that's been in their front office,
player personnel
firing, it seems, and then they fired a couple other personnel guys this past week. It seems like maybe that might have been something a little bit. Maybe that is a little bit more something than nothing. With that being said, we're speaking about Buffalo, Tampa Bay at Buffalo, two teams coming off of a tough loss. Well, one tougher than the other. Who you guys got this week and why?
Can't wait.
Yeah, like you said, Shai, both of them come off tough losses. It's actually a tough game to choose for me, because I think Tampa Bay is a bad matchup for Buffalo. I mean, yes, Buffalo, you got your running game on offense, but that's one of Tampa Bay's strength, is stopping the run. And at this moment, you haven't proved to have actual good outside weapons, and we know how tired both defense could be. But Buffalo need this game. They need it. They need it bad. I mean, as you already spoke earlier, Shai, with the NFC South, how it is in general, Tampa Bay could probably, just depending on how, Panthers and Falcons decide at the rest of the season, Tampa Bay probably can walk into a division. At this point, Buffalo, you looking at, dare I say, try to get the wild card, because, I mean, Patriots are putting a gap in between you and them. And Patriots will probably get another easy dub this week. So that's another game, man. So Buffalo really need this one. So I'm going to roll with Buffalo with this one. I think they get their act together. They are maybe a little more poised this game. But confidence, I'm not that confident, honestly. I didn't like what I've seen these past few weeks from Buffalo. So, but I'm going to rock.
No, I'm with you on that. And like I mentioned earlier, like those concerns popped up in a big way against Miami. Now Tampa Bay, if they had Bucky in this game, they can't do nothing. They wouldn't be able to do nothing with him. I'm talking about like nothing with him. But I'm still rolling Tampa Bay on this one on the road. I still think, like you said, Chris, it's still not a lot of questions. I mean, still not a lot of answers that you have at a receiver position. You are probably going to be without Dalton Kincaid in this game. So really, you're just looking at hoping, I should say, that Keon Coleman steps up and it plays. I know you had Khalil Shakir, you got James Cook, and Shakir got hurt a little bit too, so he's a little nicked. But I got Tampa Bay in this one. I think they have a big performance on the road. It says this is a tough game, just overall. So I'm curious to see who you got, Shy, honestly, in this one.
Buffalo in this one. So Buffalo's at home. Obviously, Tampa could use the game since they've had a couple tough stretches after the hot start that they had. And but I think the Bucky Irving injury is hurting them a lot more. Maybe more so than any of the other injuries that they've really had because their run game has, not obviously the Patriots are the best run defense in the league, but the run game just hasn't necessarily been what it was last year and then obviously at the beginning of this year. So Buffalo seems like their weakness on their defense is obviously their run defense. And I don't think Tampa has the horses to take advantage of that right now, similar to what Kansas City, they didn't really have the horses to take advantage of it. And I think it'll be a really close game because I do think that Josh Allen has kind of struggled with blitz pickup, blitz identification, especially over the past few weeks, stemming back to the Falcons game. And even it seems like when they lose against Kansas City in the playoffs, like it's always comes down to a big time blitz by Spagnuolo where Josh is kind of running around, misdiagnosing the blitz. I think we'll see a little bit of that with the Tampa Bay defense this week. But like I said, I think ultimately not being able to take advantage of Buffalo's weakness will be the difference. So probably like a 3-point game where Buffalo wins in this one. Should be a good one though.
It should be.
One of the games, so there's a lot of ones that could be contenders for game of the week, but Seattle at the Los Angeles Rams, obviously probably the two hottest teams right now, at least in the national media's eyes. Who you guys got this week and why?
Yeah, this is a big game for both teams. Being able to, somebody try to take firm hold of the division. Both team offenses are clicking right now. Both team defense are pretty solid. But I'm gonna rock with Seattle with this one. I just think Seattle, I understand, like I said, the Rams offense has been playing great, but I honestly don't think their defense has been playing that great. In my opinion, Matt Jones lit their ass up. Had they not had them few miscues, it would have been a closer game than what it was. I think Seattle, they're gonna show everybody like, hey, this record's not a fluke. Not saying that the Rams record is a fluke, but I just think Seattle has the opportunity to take advantage of this game and make it a little tougher on the Rams. So I'm gonna rock with Seattle with this one. It's a close game though, but I'm gonna rock with Seattle.
I think the heater kind of continues for Matt Stafford. They'll have to come up with creative.
That's your All-American. We know.
Yeah, you know it. Man, you trying to shit on him before the season? I look at him, but all right.
Well, I seen when he played the Eagles. I seen that. I seen that nigga fold the whole second half. But go ahead.
No, I think the heater continues though, man. I'm talking about like he's not putting the ball in harm's way. Puka came back playing well. Devontae's been there playing well. We'll see if Devontae play. I know he got nicked up too. They say if it was like a important game or a closer game, he would have played, that type of thing. So we'll see. This is, a 32-year-old.
Hit a move and grab your back.
That's what I said. That's what I was just about to say.
You hit a move and that's the first thing you do.
Grab that back. I was like, oh shit. This is the 32, 33-year-old receiver we're talking about here. So we'll see. But if Devontae plays, I'll have even more confidence in this. I think they'll come up with a good game plan against Seattle, though. I mean, Seattle's going to really have to get that run game going. And I know it hasn't been too much of an issue so far. And they've had great blocking throughout it. But they got to continue this week. But I got the Rams at home in this one. I think this is going to be a great game. I can't wait for it.
I think it's going to be a great game. It's probably one of the games that I'm looking most forward to this weekend if I get an opportunity to catch it. But I'm going with Seattle as well. Earlier this season, or before we did our preseason kind of picks and stuff like that, what the divisions would look like, I mentioned like Seattle's team was fucking stacked, but I just didn't believe in Sam Darnold. And I think Sam Darnold, has reinforced that, I guess, belief that people had in him. Obviously Colin Cowherd was his biggest champion for years. But it's great to see him continue to to play as well as he has. And Matt Stafford was actually originally going to be the guy on my hot seat, but it became Nick Sirianni maybe about 30 minutes before we started this. And I think Matt Stafford really has a great opportunity to kind of rewrite his career. Our people have already started to try to put him in the Hall of Fame category, even though I think that's a little rich given how the career started. And obviously I'm a Georgia fan and I love Matt Stafford. But getting an MVP, which right now he's, since running backs can't win it, he's obviously the leader between him and Drake May. And having this game would probably like put him in like prohibitive favorite for at least a couple weeks. So I do think that Matt Stafford could kind of getting an MVP as well as winning the previous Super Bowl that he did a few years ago would definitely have him in real Hall of Fame, true Hall of Fame conversation, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going with Seattle on this one, but I would not hate it if Matt Stafford had a great game and ended up. So, but we'll see. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a good one. With that being said, I'm also looking forward to this one with Kansas City visiting Denver. Major implications in this game, obviously, with Kansas City where they're at and Denver trying to establish some type of credibility in terms of the eyes of the media and being a contender. Who you guys got this week and why?
So, if we had this game about 2 weeks ago, I probably would go with Denver. But man, I mean, I'm gonna have to rock with Kansas City on this one. It's more so about Denver than Kansas City, because at this juncture, I still don't believe that's who I had on my hot seat last week. I remember it was Kansas City. Did not like how that offense was looking against Buffalo, and they're gonna struggle against this damn Denver defense. Even if Pat Surtain not playing, they will struggle this defense, but Bo will turn that bitch over. I can just see. I can see it happening. I can see him turn that motherfucker over and putting Kansas City in a perfect position. He reads one of the best coaches, one of the better coaches coming off a bye, and I'm just hoping that they went in the bye soul searching. That was my whole hot seat rant the other week about them going to the bye trying to figure out who they are as an offense. I think they come out. They need it. Fuck all that. They also need it. Denver, they can afford to lose it or whatever. Possibly still walk into the Kansas City needed at this point. Another L on that record. They are looking out of the playoffs. They are really at the back end at this point. So they need this damn W. So I'm gonna rock with the Chiefs on this
one. And that's why I think Denver. That's why I think Denver can't afford this loss.
Mm-hmm.
You have the opportunity right now to put an end to this shit. to put an end to this Kansas City shit. You had the opportunity, and I think they realized that. I'm gonna go with Denver in this one. I think that defense steps up big. Pat Mahomes has not been. Pat Mahomes has not been the best versus pressure this season, and what we've seen from Denver this whole season is they bring that pressure, and it's gonna be interesting to see how Bo Nix responds on the opposite side. But again, he hasn't been terrible versus pressure. He doesn't sit back there and just pat the ball, and if he does, he's taking off. He's hitting his quick games. I'm not saying Bo Nix is a great quarterback by any means. I'm saying he can win a game like this.
He's average.
You know what I'm saying? That's where I'm at with it. And I think he can win a game like this. So I'm going to go Denver at home, too. I think it's a big one.
He's average to below average. Yeah, Kansas City better not lose this game because they got to see Sauce next week, man. They got to see
Ahmad. What you mean?
They got to see Ahmad Gardner next week.
That's crazy.
No, I'm just talking shit. But no, truthfully though, I mean, I've been saying it for a couple weeks. Like, this is an opportunity for these teams in the AFC, which Buffalo once again blew an opportunity with this loss, to keep Kansas City down and to keep them out of the playoffs. Jacksonville as well. That loss also hurts because Jacksonville was above them in the wild card. And
had a tiebreaker.
Another team and had the tiebreaker. So, it's very tough, but in all seriousness, if they do lose this game, you have the other 8-2 team in the conference coming into town. and Kansas City, what we do know is they can't run the ball and they can't stop the run. and you got Jonathan Taylor coming into town next week. So it is a huge game for Kansas City and a huge game for Denver as well.
Go ahead and
go
do
with
it.
Kansas City.
Nah.
I'm gonna go with Kansas City. I was thinking I
know.
really want to pick Denver, but I just can't put my trust in Bo. But to Cass's point, along with how Patrick Mahomes has been against the blitz, his man versus zone splits have also been it has been night and day. You know, been really good against zone. Been us versus man coverage. So you know, so I think that we see a lot of man coverage out of Denver this week. I think that the biggest thing, we'll have to see how Kansas City adjusts. Them having the bye week, I think, benefits them a lot. Even though Denver had that extended rest as well. But I'm going to rock with Kansas City and another close one, similar to that first one that they had last year where Denver was up for a lot of it, ended up getting a blocked field goal for the win. I think we see something, maybe not a blocked field goal, but it's a close game like that, maybe even a low-scoring, like 13-10 game, and Kansas City ends up finding a way to win. So find a way, man.
Hey, man, I'm still dying that shit, bro.
That being said,
find a way, man.
For the last game of the week, last pick of the week, we got our Sunday night game that we talked about earlier. Obviously, a much anticipated game for the past couple years. Detroit going against Philadelphia in Philly. Who you guys got this week and why?
Ooh, another primetime tough game for my Eagles. This is gonna be a great game, man. I understand, our offense has not been looking good in general, but for whatever reason, they look good when they need to look good. They score points when they need to score points. Obviously, they didn't need to score points the other game. You can say whether or not if had, Green Bay scored, they would have forced the Eagles to, change up what they do. But I think this is a good matchup for us. I think, man, the addition to with Jalen Phillips, crazy. That made our defense much better. We can get after the passer now, and I think that's going to be the calling card this week. We have to get after Jared Goff, cause some pressure, make him be erratic a little bit, and get a big turnover by our defense and come away with the score, come away with the win. Probably by 3 points though, but I take it.
Okay. I'm actually gonna go with Detroit on this one. Like you said, I think it's going to be a great game. I cannot look. We're gonna have a good Sunday of football, guys. Like this is a man. It's gonna be a good game. I think Detroit will. I think Dan Campbell, resorting to play call, and I think that did give him a spark this past Sunday. I'm interested to see, how that carryover is on a week to week basis. So it will be interesting. And then that, Philly's defense is getting better and better each week. But I think Detroit
really
comes up with some
week.
Yeah. But I think Detroit comes up with some timely turnovers in this one. Whether it's fumbles or interceptions, I don't know, but I think it does happen. And I think Detroit capitalizes on that pretty handily. So I got Detroit on this one on the road, but it's gonna be a tough game regardless. I can't wait for it.
Yeah, I don't think the Eagles offense, obviously how they've looked, I don't know if that's definitely not going to work against the Detroit Lions. But I picked against the Eagles last week, and I got pie to the face, so I'm going to rock with the Eagles this week. Rock with my guy Nick Sirianni. They got whatever issues they keep saying that they have, or whatever the case may be. It's not hindering them, at least to this point. And I don't think that it'll hinder them this week. I think that we get another close game where we're like, what the fuck's going on? And then we see probably the same thing where this is going to be an interesting week because we got Terrion has been playing pretty well since he started his not little podcast. Let me not hate. Started his
but I think he in concussion protocol.
Is he in concussion protocol this week? I didn't. Okay. So I was going to say we might see him getting Moss this week by Smitty. But I do think we see something similar where we get maybe another big play to Devontae Smith that ends up being the difference in the game in like a 23-20 game. So I'm rocking with the Eagles at home. They need it because both teams need it really because Detroit, with Green Bay having the weird tie, they're not, even though everybody talks about Green Bay like it's doom and gloom, it's really not doom and gloom at all. Like, they would have won last
mean,
week.
it's still right in front of them.
Number
The
one
division for them,
seed.
yeah.
So we'll see what the Bears will do. But because obviously the record is where it is right now, but it's a much needed game for Detroit, and then for Philly, obviously just further validation for them that they are who they think they are, and continuing on their defense of their championship. So I think it's going to be a good game. It's funny, this is a great week because, the Falcons and Carolina, like I mentioned, we got Chicago and Minnesota. My bad. We got Caleb versus 9 this week.
9.
We got Cincinnati at Pittsburgh, which was an excellent game a few weeks ago on Thursday Night Football. Who knows? We might get that again. Los Angeles Chargers at Jacksonville, a playoff rematch from a few years ago. That's a big-time game for both teams. So it is an excellent weekend for football. Not Seattle. San Fran going against Arizona, another divisional game Arizona is not a slouch. I understand that they lost the way that they lost, but they're not a slouch. So it's an exciting week. But before we sign off, it's kind of ironic that I was talking about how Nick Sirianni handles all these big players and having to tell them, hey, you're not it anymore. And like 2 minutes later, Jair Alexander walks away from football. But speaking of 9, we obviously got we got news this week that Joe Burrow is officially on schedule to come back this season, possibly by Thanksgiving. How do you guys feel about that? Do you think that he should come back?
I mean, if the player wants to come back and play and show that he's healthy, let him do it. As far as the team goes, I can see where they thinking. Pittsburgh's kind of reeling. At this point, the Ravens, we expect them to start winning and take over the division, but at this juncture, their record isn't that good either. So it is an opportunity to make some noise. But we seen Joe Flacco make noise and they still lose. That defense is bad. Like there is nothing you can do about it. Like at this point, you didn't trade for nothing from the trade deadline. You didn't bolster your defense up. So Joe Burrow, I don't know. I just feel like you come into a situation where sure, stats will look great on your legacy, I guess, but as far as your team this year, yeah, kind of done. So I bring his ass back, but hey, I ain't.
This should be a wake up call to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I was to be my backup hot seat. Honestly, this week, this should be a wake up call to Pittsburgh Steelers. If they listen to it, I know they did. Listen to Joe Burrow's press conference. He came out and said, "Oh, this division is wide open."
Yep.
Why is it wide open? Why is it wide open? Because of them. I was about to say.
To a T, exactly what I was about to say.
So the Steelers should not mess around in this game against the Bengals, and then the Bengals next week have the Patriots. They lose these 2 games, forget all that Joe Burrow shit. So we can put it into that this week. I understand he's coming back to practice, and you're feeling good, and he wants to play and all that. They lose these next 2 games without him before Thanksgiving. It's over with anyway. So the Pittsburgh Steelers should take that and feel the type of way about it and handle business on Sunday against this Bengals team. On top of all the Tomlin and Joe Flacco and that trade from the Browns, all that shit too. It's all of that. So that's how.
Leave it to the Colts to make the Pittsburgh Steelers look a little competent for a week. God damn. But yeah, man. I really don't have too much more to add to that because that was exactly what I was gonna say. That for Joe Burrow to say that so matter of factly, is very
it's wild.
It's an indictment on what he. It tells you exactly what he thinks about Pittsburgh. He's like, yo, y'all are ass. 100%. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's no way around it. So the Ravens are basically saying the same thing. They just been more respectful about it. So Joe Burrow just straight up told you y'all ain't it. So, which there's no reason that him or anybody for the Bengals should be saying that ever. So you gotta hot seat, honorary speak up hot seat right now because you guys.
That is tough.
You need to do something. In last week's game, I mean, you got everybody saying Aaron Rodgers looked old, and he definitely did. But, much to my point about the Colts loss is like they couldn't do shit against the Colts, couldn't do shit against on offense. On offense, they couldn't do shit against the Colts offensively, and they couldn't do shit against the Chargers. They got to get that side of the ball right. So Joe Burrow might be right.
Man, we'll see.
But with that being said, man, that gives us a wrap for another episode of the Speak Up Sports Podcast. We will catch you guys next week.
Sir.